Peace be with you, brothers and sisters. So today I wanted to come on because I just had this overwhelming things happening. I think it's because I was on a certain app earlier today, and I was going back and forth with fellow Christians. You know what? I'm wrong. It wasn't a fellow Christian. It was somebody who made it clear they weren't a Christian, but they were very accepting of me, you know, and my message and the message of Christ. But anyway, as we were going back and forth, I just felt the Holy Spirit speaking and speaking and speaking, and I'm feeling like there should be more focus on that. At least my thing should be to show what I see, you know, more focus on what seems to be lining up. For example, you know, the earthquake, I should be focusing more on the earthquake stuff because they're increasing in the New Madrid. Also, you know, the meteors coming. It's not out of fear or anything like this, because what happened was, while I was doing this thing, commenting back and forth, I realized they said, oh, Jesus has been coming forever. Everybody's been saying he's been coming for 2,000 years. And, you know, oh, the sky is rolling up like a scroll. That's symbolism. That's symbolism. And it's like, okay, if the stars falling from the sky is symbolism, then why are they falling from the sky now? Why are meteors coming now? Why are they in every country? They're getting bigger and bigger. Every year they're getting bigger and bigger. And then these earthquakes in the middle of our country, I'm being country focused because I'm American and I guess that's the bubble I live in. But I mean, there's in various places right now. Like there's one in Israel. There's another one, and I was just looking up the Israel tectonic plates, saying, could there be that big earthquake, that great earthquake that Revelation speaks of? I'm thinking an American, but I think maybe it's in Israel, you know. I really don't know, you know. And then today I just felt just this opening up, you know, like all of a sudden my ears could hear, because I was listening to the gospel and I could hear, you know, and I just felt like a soothing in the spirit, like, wow, you know, I was kind of hard on myself, and the spirit was just like, you're not a Jew. You couldn't put the dots together. So when Jesus says things like, he was talking about the high priest, and he's saying that these things have to be fulfilled, and they're condemning themselves by their own law, which is in the book of book of John. I was reading both, so I got it. For the first time, I was like, I can hear him in real time now. Like when he's talking, I can hear him in real time. And it took me a long time to figure out the Jewish ways and the Jewish rites and the Jewish books. And it just, because I'm slow. And then for the first time I realized, yeah, that's right. The Old Testament totally condemns them because everything he's doing is written and they know it really well. And I think I've done that to myself, where I'm like, I'm doing it right now. And I'm realizing that this, as I'm on this other app, I realized something. We couldn't tell his first time coming, and we still can't read this, even his second time. The theologians, the people who just think they know the word, you don't see the stars falling from the sky. You don't see how the earthquakes are increasing. You don't know they'll come on like birth pains. Why can't you read it? Why can't you? It's not just spiritual. And, you know, I know people do this thing where they go, oh, well, when your kingdom is falling, then Jesus is coming in. That's been happening for 2,000 years. But the solar stuff that's happening has not been forever. We just had the Star of Bethlehem that comes every, 1,000 years. There's no way you can say that this is this time. I know with time things get more and more intense, but while I was also on this app, I noticed something. The spirit on this app is no good. There's a very, very puffed up, prideful spirit, and I bind that in Yeshua's precious name. I bind it because I think people's intentions are good, but that's how you'll lead to bad places. If it's the time for Jesus' return, there's nothing that can stop it. And your government's not going to be the government that's going to withstand it, wherever your government is. So everything you're going to do, whether you win or you lose, eventually it'll come to a place where it stops. Whether it's 4 years or now, whether it's 4 years or 8 years. This government's only going to go so far before the king himself, who is returning, is going to put it to a stop. And it said that in Revelations there'll be a great earthquake, there'll be the darkening of the sun, yada yada yada. And I'm not yada yada in the Bible. I'm just saying, you know what it is. It's written in English. And I started, of course, when you start arguing about whether or not, he was like, oh, Jesus didn't write the book of Revelations, means he never read it. It actually says that Jesus came to John himself and said, write this to the angels who are over the 7 churches. Jesus is literally directing somebody to write it the way the people back in the day used to have somebody write for them. You know what I'm saying? Jesus could have, he wrote it through the Holy Spirit, you know? So it's like, if you're not on level, then when I say the leaven of Herod, you're not on level. You know, and that's what Jesus did too. He just started talking. And in the book of John, they say, oh, we hear you. You're not speaking in figures of speech anymore. We actually hear you. That's actually the moment I heard. And so when they start saying that, and I all of a sudden I heard, you know, like I could hear what they were doing, what they were saying. And so when the Christians talk and they say, oh, you know, the leaven of Herod, the Christians get it. We speak each other's language. We get it. We speak plainly to each other. But to everybody else, it's like, what? You know, oh, as it is written in Revelations, we have our own speech. We have our own way. And that's not that's the boast in the Lord, of course, not in ourselves. But it can't be, it's our way because we're Americans and Christian. You know, like then people, when you start debating with people about whether or not Christians are the most persecuted people in the world, and their answer is no, the Christians are the persecutors, you know that there's something else going on. And then I'm on this other app that's actually like, I'm just disappointed by it. Let's just put it that way. They're plotting things against the government, and I'm not into that. Anyway, so I wanted to read this here because I heard it for the first time. Okay, this is very cool to me. I don't know why, but this is very cool to me. If you're a Christian, let your ears hear what's happening here. So Jesus said, feed my sheep, for verily I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you're older, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you and where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death that Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. So Peter gets up to follow Jesus, right? And Peter turned and saw that a disciple, who was Jesus Christ's beloved, was following him. The one Jesus loved was following them. And this was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper table and had said, Lord, who is going to betray you? When Peter saw him, he said, Lord, what about him? So what was happening here is, we all know he's implying him, the guy who wrote it, John, is implying himself. So Peter gets up to follow Jesus because he thinks he's going to tell him a secret or something. And John gets up too. And Peter's standing there with Jesus like, but John's following us like siblings do. I know because I have 3. And I'm the 4th. I'm the oldest. And so what does Jesus say to this? Lord, he says, what about him? And then Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Because of this, the rumor spread among the believers that the disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? Now he has, Apostle John has a very mysterious room. You know, you look at the Google, the magic crystal ball that has all the answers, and it claims that in John, in the book of Acts, it implies that he died a certain way, but then he happens to be present during a council meeting in Acts 15 or something. This is the thing. Earlier, it's told that Jesus says that because they ask, hey, would you do something for us? And Jesus is like, what do you want? And he's like, oh, well, we want to sit there, your right and left. We want to be, chilling with you. He's like, yeah, you'll be baptized with the cup that I drink, you'll drink too, and my baptism you'll receive. But who sits to the right or the left, that's only for whom God has prepared that place for. So God is in the Father, as in. So I personally can't read into what exactly that means personally, because I think that's a mystery. But this is interesting. I don't know why this strikes me as fascinating, because I've always felt, because this is the thing. You hear the Christians saying things like the rapture, and I've always felt this feeling in my spirit, like I have a funny feeling I'm going to see Jesus in the sky. I'm going to see him coming from the clouds. And I know that everybody's supposed to, but I just feel like this funny feeling in my spirit that I might get left. And I know that's a tragic thing to say. When people say left, that means you weren't raptured, And then a part of me feels like maybe there's the blessing in that, because the meek will inherit the earth. I'm really, really trying to just lean on the Spirit right now, because I'm seeing this world fall away, and I just feel a lot of things. I feel like a form of isolation type of feeling, and it's not like a doom or gloom, but it's like almost like when Paul was put into prison, he got really deep in the Word he was writing, and that's where some of these books came, and I just feel this feeling of isolation to grow deeper and deeper into the Lord, which I've already been having for the last year, as everybody else. And then I've been asking Jesus about, last year, was that the judgment of the church? Because we all know we were judged as the church. But when does the judgment fall upon the world? How will we know? What is our response? How are we to move? How are we to act? Are we expected to be seeing him in the clouds? I have a lot going on, and I'm just speaking freely because I know I'm supposed to maybe I yield too much to something else. I can only yield to Jesus. I can't yield to other things. But I'll share with you this. As I was reading and listening to the Word, I had this moment that I would impress upon anybody watching to do yourself, to be before Jesus Christ himself. Really test if you're able to stand that ground, because that ground is holy. When you're standing before Jesus, the ground that you stand on is holy. So spiritually, practice standing in front of Jesus. Practice, practice, practice. So, I just had this spiritual thing about, I'm all over the place, but in the Revelations it says, for those who are beheaded, those who are dressed in white for because they were beheaded, and then I was thinking about the fact that you would be somebody somewhere, according to Revelations, will be beheaded, his followers. And what order that is, it's a mystery. It's a mystery because of their testimony, they are beheaded. You're yelling out, Christ is King forever, Christ is King forever. You're forced to lay down on this, what do they call those things? Guillotines. You're forced to, remain still, but you won't, because the only thing that can come out of your mouth is Jesus is King forever. Jesus, they can't silence your mouth. They can silence, they can wrap you up and whatnot, maybe physically. It may be God's will that's not the case. But your mouth for forever can be moving. And as this blade comes down, you hear it stop. You hear a gasp. And you feel a release of your chains, of your bondage. And you stand up in rejoicing because you're about to meet the world again. In your mind, you think to yourself, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to stand up on this guillotine because God has stopped this blade from coming down upon my neck. And I'm going to say, Jesus is King forever, and I'm going to point in this direction. And you're standing up on, a grassy field. You're looking around as you're yelling out, Jesus is King forever. And everything around you is lit from within, and there's no sun in the sky. It's all lit from within. And you look in the direction that you point, and there's the King. It's only after you feel your head, like you fall dead looking upon the King, you fall dead, and you just feel your body lose its strength and energy, and your head hits the ground as you go to naturally just by instinct honor Christ, and as your head hits the ground, you realize that you're beheaded only long enough to forget it. You remember it as fast as you remember it, as fast as you forget. And you realize what the true victory is in Jesus Christ. So I think what we need to do is, and I know I don't have an organized message because my mind is in the Spirit, and my spirit is in the Spirit, and my strength is in the Spirit, and I just have a lot of I'm just disappointed. I'm very excited that the British folks have sided with us. There's a lot of British people who sided with Americans on our spiritual or on our governmental stuff, but they're also speaking spiritually too. So I think it's hard. I think it's a confusing time when you hear people speak of Jesus, and the same people who are proclaiming Jesus are saying, what they're saying, and they're in Britain, they're all over the world, they're all backing up the other side of America. And it's just things like this, like I'm just scrolling through my news feed, and do you see this is the polar vortex? It says sudden warming could mean a wild winter storms ahead, right? And there's blue and red. This is over our country, and I'm just scrolling through, and this is what I'm telling you is like, that's how my world is. I don't know how everybody else is seeing the world or feeling, but it's just like division's happening, division's here, even the weather's proclaiming it. But don't be shaken, because at the end of the day, your solid ground, all other ground will disappear. Your solid ground is Jesus Christ. And if He wants you to be here to watch Him come from the clouds, what is it to anybody else or to any part of the world? It's nobody else's business. Whether some say Apostle John disappeared into the clouds, that he actually was not martyred. Some say he was. Some say, he lived to 120. But what is it to you? What is it to me? Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Keep your eyes on the King. I was playing chess with my little girl. So again, this happens to me all the time. I don't know about you. It happens to me all the time. I'm playing chess with my little girl, and I was moving in on her king, and I lost track of my own, and she rooked my king. And I realized, it's so easy when you get caught up in the game to lose track of the King. You lose track of that King, of our King, not any king, but our King. And you've lost your soul. You got to be very, very careful that while you're moving in on the king of this world, which isn't a politician because they're easy to see, it's the one that moves, it's the puppet master, spiritual puppet master, and it is the prince of this world who is not my prince, who is not my king. Right now, my king is a prince of peace, but he's coming back. He's coming back, and he's not coming back as a babe in a manger. He's coming back with an army behind him to conquer, and he's already had victory in this world. So if you need to spiritually step out of this world and see it like a big chess game, as I have to, I would get back into the Word. I'd let Jesus, what you need to focus on is the relationship with Jesus Christ. Sometimes when I'm praying for Jesus, and I know nobody else maybe does this, I do. I've done this ever since I was a kid as a habit. And, I know what it's like to be a mom, but until I became a mom, I didn't really appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to be a mom, years before I became a mom. And then before becoming whatever it is you've done in your life, until you do it, you don't really know what it's like. I never will be a God, and I'm not a God. So what is it like for God who loves and is he has so much pain and so much sorrow, and there's something in him that's so understanding that I don't quite grasp. I don't quite understand. I don't know if you call it pain or sorrow, but that he would sacrifice his own son means something about this God. I think when people say the word God, they think Zeus. Zeus is, and I know that means that we give him with a Zeus-like God, we put our own pains and we let him reflect what we're thinking, what we're feeling. But maybe it's not pain. Maybe it's called something else for God, because he knows the true inner workings of it. And I pray for Jesus for that. I pray for the misery he had on the cross. I pray about, the sadness maybe he feels now watching people work out of his will and not work in his will. Maybe because he knows the end of all this, he doesn't feel the same pain the same way we do. I don't really know, but sometimes I'm just in my spirit. Ever since I was a kid, I've had this habit of saying, "How are you doing? I hope you're doing well." Nobody says anything about that to God like that. Nobody says, "How are you doing? Are you doing okay?" We just assume because he sits on the throne, I hope he is, doing well on the throne. I'm sure he is. But it's like, hey, how are you? Is there, he knows all the darkness we don't know. We get a little bit of internet access and we see this dark news and we can't handle it. He knows all of it. He knows it as it's happening. He knows it when it happened in the past. He knows it when it's been unforgiven, when it goes into the fires of hell. He knows it all. And sometimes I say, Jesus, I love you. I bless you. I pray, that you're doing okay. I pray these things don't heavy your heart. I pray I don't grieve you. I don't have control over other people, but I pray that if I've ever grieved you in the past, please forgive me via Holy Spirit. If I've grieved the Holy Spirit in the past, if I grieve him now, or if I grieve him in the future, because I'm human and I'm not God, could you please forgive me? So anyway, well, this is another Christ King Forever. Peace be with you.